Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh,
Well,
good morning. Here we go. Another e-learning, February 2017. Own your strengths. This is going to be a good topic today.
As soon as Terry finishes her coffee,
Mm-hmm.
she loves the morning.
I love it. And you know what Brian did? He put a picture of Gino in front of us, so we'll know where to look. And he makes us laugh, so it helps us smile too. So good morning, Gino. We're looking at you. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Let's go.
Let's do some work. So this is a fun topic today. It's a little heavy, but that's okay. I think it's one that's going to make impact. And I certainly think it's going to have all of us thinking, Steve and myself included, because as all of you know, when you're teaching your staff, you learn while you're teaching. And while we were writing this program, this really surfaced some great thoughts for us. So the typical, it didn't go down a page. Okay, the typical definition, or the definition as written, of strength is the quality or state of being strong, in particular, being strong, right? Or a good or beneficial quality or attribute of a person or thing. So something you're known for that is positive and it's a strength of yours. But I love the last one the most. The number of people comprising a group, typically a team or an army. So we are stronger when we're one, right?
When we're one as a group.
Yes, and what we just left Visible Changes annual conference yesterday, and the whole theme was be one.
Absolutely.
Oh, we had a great time.
We had a great time there, but really thinking about the B1, it really is about strength and strength in numbers. Things, if you think about everything we've heard,
or strength
in
and
our
beliefs,
lifetime,
or strength and focus.
Most importantly, strength and values.
Mm-hmm.
When you join a group of people together and your values are in the same spot, the strength that results is incredible. And that's really, I think, what we're looking for in salons. And I think it's something that really gets missed often is we have too many, to me, the opposite of be one is be a silo, be only one. And when you have a group, even if it's a small team of 4 people and everyone is doing their own thing, they're just only concerned about them. It starts and ends with them. Everybody else is crazy. I'm going to go to work today. I'm going to do my thing, and that's it. It's limited to what you can accomplish. A team that doesn't share the same values can't compete with a team that does.
Oh, excellent. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Can I go down? Yes. So I was doing some research. There's a couple of tests that you can take online just to find out where your strengths lie. Sometimes we're so in it that we forget what we're good at. Or perhaps what we're good at is something that needs to be understood and examined. For example, strengths can be, if you lined 100 people up, they would say, well, strengths are what you're good at. But what I did in our research for this time together is your strengths are really things that you do that complete you, that fulfills you, that you enjoy doing. They challenge you, but you love it, and they give you strength. For example, the 2 least favorite things that I like to do in life, there's 2 of them: empty the dishwasher or having to go to the gas station to get gas. Hate both those things. And every time I look down, it's almost empty. Because it sucks the blood out of you. Doing laundry.
Really?
Oh, I hate it. And plus,
The blood.
well, no, it sucks the energy out of you. But
Okay.
what I think about is when it's ice cold outside, or it's 110 degrees outside. Spring and fall, it's certainly not as bad to get gasoline during those times of year. But when it's extreme weather, I hate it. When I hate getting it, and then it always drips on me, and I smell it the rest of the day. I can't stand it, whether it drips on my shoe or the bottom of my shoe or whatever. And the dishwasher, I love filling it, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I fill it like art.
You overfill it.
I overfill it, and I'm going to get it all in there.
Then it has to be washed again and again.
Sometimes multiple times because of the way I fill it. But what gives you strength? What do you like doing? Like, I like doing laundry. I might complain about it, but it's very relaxing to me. So that's not on my hate list. It kind of, when I get it all done, or I look at the challenge of getting a stain out in one of the children's clothing or something. So I don't mind that.
Anything in business that?
No, but I'm just giving these examples
Okay.
because we're going to go there. You know what? Sick of you already. All right, so if you look at weaknesses, weaknesses are, people would probably say what you're not so good at or something you need to work on. But did you know a weakness may be something that you're really good at, you just don't enjoy doing it?
It's a good
Right?
thought, yeah.
So it's really not a weakness, it just doesn't fulfill you, right? I mean, I know that I'm probably one of the best cleaners on staff, right? I don't do it every day, but I can tell you there's times when my mind is full that if I go purge a room or do some reorganization or set up some zones of things, that I feel better. What are you doing today? Are you going to giggle all day with me? All right. So to know your strengths, especially in business, it takes you to have an absolute understanding and analysis of them. And you have to be able to defend your strengths. It's not just something you like. It's something that fulfills you, and you have to be able to defend it. And if you look at it also is, you have to do an analysis of your team strengths, and I'll put those together.
Give me an example of defending.
Meaning, I love setting up merchandising, and I love reorganizing or love creating a new focal point for our guests to come in, that they like it so much they want to duplicate it in their salon. You have to be able to defend it, meaning some people, let me give you an example. People can say, I love to sing, but they can't sing for a darn. God bless them.
So back it up.
You've got to back it up.
You need to be able to back it up. Okay.
Right?
Right.
So you can say, oh, I love merchandising. Well, when's the last time you did it? Well, I don't have time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you need to put some energy into your strengths too. Good?
Makes
All right.
sense.
So if you look at and analyze your team strengths and your strengths, whether it's, these are the topics that are required for you to be strong in, but you're not always strong yourself. So as a leader of a salon, you've got to have your service and pricing standards, your systems need to be strong, your people, your talent, your career path of developing people needs to be strong, your facility needs to be strong, your leadership needs to be strong. You have to have a sense of knowledge on your accounting and profitability, right? And then your professional relationships with all your vendors, social media presence. You've got to be able to work on projects to better the business. And timeline needs to be a strength so your staff knows what you're thinking about. Just looking at that list is overwhelming, right?
I was wondering when you were going to say that.
Now, but wait. And then what happens if I'm also, if I'm responsible for productivity in the salon? Some owners that are listening today could be 50% of the volume, plus have all that responsibility. How can every one of those be a strength?
You know, the thing that I wonder is that sometimes I think that the owners that are working behind the chair do that because it makes their heart sing. And if an owner was to step out from behind the chair full time, they lose what makes their heart sing.
Well, yes, they're good at it. It creates fulfillment.
They're good at it, and it creates fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a strength.
And the business
and
needs
it models behavior that the rest of the staff needs to see.
Okay.
The challenge is that list that was on the previous screen.
Could create stress.
Oh my gosh. Because there's only so much time in a day,
Mm-hmm.
and something usually gets less than what it should, which is why, again, we need a team of people going in the right direction so you're spending the least amount of time on what we call the stupid stuff.
Right. Well, and we're going to go there. So remember, we always say this, stress is change something, or change trying to take place and you will not let it, or I added this.
Let people help you.
Let people help you that have those strengths that you need, right? So if we look at it, the stressless choices, there is, I'm sorry, not the stressless, the strengthless choices. All these things, every one of them could be one of your strengths. What I would do is I would take myself out to lunch and look at these next two slides and say, how do I measure up on these as a leader? because I just gave examples of strengths. That's why we wrote plus much more. But these next two slides have a ton of information on them, right? So if we look at, let's just go through a couple of them. What are the projects we're working on right now? I mean, I know at PSC in the school, and many times our projects are centered around bringing the right team in, right? Or making sure we're developing our talent. We've got some strengths that I could be really good at projects, and you could say, well, I'm not a project person, I'm a visionary, I think about it. But I'm not the person that does all the steps to get it there. You could be someone that says, you know, a strength of mine is helping the business change and reinvent itself over time, creating enhancements, whether it's in services and systems. I could be an idea person, watch a commercial and say, hey, I'm bringing that back in to PSC tomorrow, right? So where are yours? And you might say, I could look at my staff and say, it might not be a strength of mine, but who has some of these things? For example, what jumps out at me? Social media. Many of the owners might say, wow, I don't speak social yet. You know, I think of Denise at Studio 11, they do a beautiful job with social media. It's a strength of hers, and she makes it, you know what people with strengths do? They make it look easy.
That's true.
Right? So you look at them and you think, oh my gosh, that's such a strength of yours. And it's on my list of, I don't like it, I don't completely understand it, so it's not going to be the first place I go every day. Right? So go through this. It could be someone else on this session could be really good at compliance and audits, or maybe they're really good at culture. Now, if we find ways to bring all these strength lists together, what could we be?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Is the concept earlier where you said that owning your strengths allows you to, it completes you.
Mm-hmm.
How much of this, such as the social media that you mentioned that isn't yours, how much of this is taking on things in order to learn them to develop a strength versus only focusing on your current strengths?
I think it goes back to that old question: how do you eat a piece of cake? Right? If there was
Frosting first.
I'm frosting first, totally, and I can't remember. I think it was in The Road Less Traveled. I don't remember the book it was written in, but first time I read it, I thought, well, frosting first, and then he went on to say that's probably how you work too.
Mm-hmm.
There's never frosting left on the plate, only dry cake, right? And he said, those of you that eat the cake first probably go in and tackle your job the very same way. You'll go in and fight really hard to get the things that are not your favorite things because you want to end the day with the icing. Then there's people that start the day with the icing, stay in the icing all day and never get to the things that are the dry cake. You know, it's easy to gravitate towards your strengths. It's also, what does your team need you to work on for it to become a strength of yours so it fulfills you? You know, last time I was with Denise, and she makes it look easy. And she makes it look so easy that she almost can't even speak to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do you do that every day? How do you post every day? How do you have themes? How do you remember? Seems like another thing on the to-do list. They've embraced it and managed it.
Well, yeah, and why it's hard to speak to it is because when you're really good at something like that and you're doing it consistently, you're unconsciously confident.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
It's just part of your skill set. It's your wheelhouse.
So you look at other people like Salon Facility and Image. We went to a new Salon EM studio that just moved their location. A focus of theirs is how they present themselves as a salon. It is a huge, everything's in place, and Mary and Alicia have done a beautiful job. That's their strength. They live there. Now they do other things really well too, but you can tell where they go first. That's a strength of mine too. That's where I like to start. I want to make sure everything's in place at PSC, that we've got our best face forward. Now, maybe some other things need to become a better strength, but I love fussing over the business. And even at home, what's a great day for me at home?
A day where you can just fuss over the house.
Fuss over the house, move things around, do the counters for the 50th time, right? So we all always move to our strengths. Here's the trouble. What does the business need our strengths to be to move it forward? If we're always doing what we're great at, there's voids. Like mine with social media, speaking social, needs to become a strength of mine. Now, how am I going to do that so it fulfills me? And usually that is knowledge, education, doing it over and over again to make it your skill.
I also think it has a lot to do with selecting great mentors.
Well, yeah.
Because if you watch and learn from other people where that is their strength, it really helps a great deal.
Well, one of the reasons we did this room, if you're noticing, we've created an inexpensive audio room where we did some, purchased some banners, which we turned into wallpaper, and we framed them in with our wood that matches PSC, and this now becomes an audio room. Now you're gonna find us doing things like live FaceTime, more conversations with you via social media, using this room as our backdrop, and I'm excited. It's a step in the right direction for us to do that. But remember, isn't that funny? I had to have a visual to help me understand that need because it complements the strength.
Yes.
Something? I didn't just think of it as a social media enhancement until I saw this.
Really?
Right? I don't know if that makes sense, but it does to me. So other things, you've got other companies like Tyler Mason that are very strong education company. James Anthony, very strong. Hollywood Hair, very strong. And they're also doing some amazing things with social media and media nights and so on and so forth.
Are you a major name dropper today?
I am. I'm dropping names today. Right?
For the purpose of?
Dropping names. That's what I'm doing. So look at the other things and look at this list about making noise, whether it's community connections, your philanthropic efforts, your earth, what do you call that when they're not just philanthropic? Conservation. And what about, there's some salon owners that say, how do you find time to read? And I was talking to a young lady at dinner the other night, and she said, how do you two find time to read? And I said, we devote a lot of our time when we're traveling to reading. Flying is a great time for us to get lost and think about things or do study time. We can look at a People magazine or we can read and enhance the business, right? So you find ways to make it a strength of yours.
And for me, I know I've shared this many times, for me, what really helps is audible.com. It's a $14.95 subscription monthly. You get 1 to 2 books a month, and it really turns drive time into learning time.
And John said that to you years ago.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
We just spent time. Yep. Turn your car into a university.
Yep.
See? So here's your strengthless choices. Once again, take yourself out for a cup of coffee and say, how am I doing on this? Where am I at? Where are my strengths at? And maybe you do it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you start looking at your team and say, it might be a 3 for me, but who on my team can make that more of a strength for us collectively? So the circle of strength, it's not the circle of life, Steve, it's the circle of strength.
Oh.
You like that?
Are you writing a song?
Yeah, I'm going to. Who?
No, you lost it.
No, I lost my thought. You are what you're surrounded by, right? So if you have a circle of strength around you, look what happens. Now go back to college coach mentality. They're not going to have they can have 9 great players on the bench, but if they're all big men, centers, what are they going to do? They've got to spread out. Well, they've got to find those strengths, right? So you've got to find 3-point shooters. You've got to find great people that rebound. You've got to find forwards and guards. And maybe people that what happens if people say, I only like to play offense? Okay, well, we have a problem then because we're not going to be balanced out if we don't have any people that love defense. So what's your circle of strengths in the salon?
You need stars, but you also need role players. Role players are the people that get the job done every day, that take pride in what they do, that maybe they don't want to be, or they're not capable of being the best player on the team, but you can't win without them. We need role players. We need role players in the salon.
And well-rounded.
Yeah, we need those people that maybe their strength is display, maybe their strength is social media, maybe their strength is bringing in new guests, maybe their strength is extracurricular, like being able to go out in the community and represent the salon and represent them well.
Maybe their strength is recruiting for us.
Yeah.
Being a scout for the salon. So, all right, so we're going to say, what is our circle of strengths? Because we're going to own those, and we have to really know who's what. I mean, if everyone was playing, let's use Michael Jordan, and said, okay, team, Michael Jordan, what are your strengths? Well, he's well-rounded, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, right? And highest point average, very, very gifted. Okay, how am I going to complement his strengths? As a team member of Michael Jordan, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get open when they've got 3 men on him so I can be able to score. He's going to have so many assists because I'm going to be so quick on the court. That sounds pretty good for me, right? Talking like that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the circle of strengths. Okay, so here's your questions you're probably asking yourself right now. What do you like to do, right? What do I like to do? What do I need to have in place right now because I haven't really taken myself out to lunch? What if I like doing projects more than I like doing hair? But what if I needed to do hair and produce? That's supposed to say produce, I'm sorry. Produce high numbers. What am I, if I am 50% of the volume? So where do I get my fuel? How do I create my balance?
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that a little bit.
Well, I think that, again, going back to Michael Jordan, one of the most interesting things about Michael was that he had a knack, he had a discipline for developing a game inside of every game. In other words, he had the team objective,
Mm-hmm.
but in every game he had a certain game that he played. Maybe it was a game that he needed to shut down the second leading scorer in the NBA. And so his focus for that was how many turnovers could he force on the best player? How many shots could he block on that best player? Another time, it might be that he wants to see how many rebounds he can get. I'll never forget when Dennis Rodman, in one of their championship years, when he went out for a period of time during that year, I can't remember whether it was an injury or suspension. Excuse me, I can remember saying to Terry, watch how much above his average Michael Jordan is for rebounds. Because he knows, he understands, Rodman's out, somebody's got to pick up those rebounds or we're not going to win.
Right. And
so he made that his game within a game for that period of time.
So let's bring it to the salon.
So in the salon, what made me think about that was you saying maybe an owner needs to contribute. Maybe the salon counts on them for a large percentage of the volume.
So if I'm working on that team and I know we need some projects to reinvent ourselves, to create magic, to stretch our service loyalty, our service commitment to our guests, I'm going to have to pick up some volume so you can work on that.
Yeah, and let me give you another example. We were just with John and Marianne McCormick, as we mentioned, and John is great at this game within a game as well, because when you're around him, I mean, he and Marianne were our hosts this weekend, but the game inside the game was how can they expose us to people that they know that Terry and I can learn the most from. So every meal we were seated strategically by John.
Mm-hmm.
Every meal. Terry was with one group and I was with another group. Yesterday, the last thing
we were allowed to sleep together.
Well, yeah.
They allowed us in the same bedroom. I'm surprised that wasn't arranged too.
But other than that, it was. I mean, we were on a mission. We were on John's mission, and grateful for it because we got to meet, and it's a whole variety of people, an array of people that they put in front of us.
I know this isn't our topic, but we have to share some of the things that happened down there. I was with a young lady, and her name's Christine, and #1 producer in the company last year. 380,000 behind the chair. 384,000. She worked 28 hours a week, right? And so when she worked full-time, she'd work 50 hours a week, right? And did 650. And now she's doing 380 working part-time.
So the interesting thing about it, and so you can get a feel for how this process works of a game within a game, we could have just heard her numbers and learned from just that. But John invited her to lunch yesterday before we left town. We had lunch together and then we went to the airport. And important to John was for Christine to tell her story. That not just what she's doing, but how did she get there? And what was the process to becoming that person?
Well, the process was at 5 years old, she was in Vietnam. And she got on a boat with
her neighbor.
With her neighbor at 5 years old. And they went out to sea until...
Neither of her parents?
No, till the USSR picked them up and took them to Singapore.
No, US Navy picked them up.
What did I say?
USSR, that's Russia.
No, USSR was the boat. Well, whatever. So anyway, they ended up in Singapore. Then via Singapore, she had family in the States, and that's how she got sponsored to come in. And then it's amazing, the story of discipline. And you know what she said to me? She goes, Terry, the ability to be successful in any aspect of your life is there. People rather be doing something else when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And whether she said in these phones, oh my gosh, I'm looking at people and they'd rather be on their phone than work. And they'd rather be on their phone than looking into the eyes of their family members at the dinner table. They'd rather be on their phone than sitting in the car talking to the significant other. And she said that's the danger, is they're never where they're supposed to be. Their strength isn't their presence in the moment. And they're very, very lazy. Now, that's what she said to me yesterday. That's what she's witnessing now. Her strength is to be full out, and then when she's not there, be full out in her life. And it was a
full out
powerful message.
is just her way.
Yeah.
If she's at work, she's full out.
And she's 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing, right? And just a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to work next to her. I was given the example yesterday and I've shared this in other classes, is I used to make a game out of the game when I was waiting tables. And Christine's made a game out of the game when she is behind the chair. So let me give you an example of mine. One of my favorite tables to take care of was a business meeting. Let's say 6 men are coming in to dine. And I would say to them, is this a business function or a social function tonight? And they'd say, business. I'd say, that's terrific. Because I know you want to be interrupted minimum amount of times. After I take this first initial cocktail order, when these get low, may I bring the second round unannounced? Yes. I just made a game out of a game.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a whole second round of drinks with one question. And I'd also upgrade all of their drinks. So if they want a gin martini, I would be saying, we're serving a Tanqueray, and so it took it from a well brand to a super call, which back then the difference was $4 or $5. So already in one conversation, I'm going to figure out not how to do the basic, not how to do or offer the basics, but to present the opportunities for that ticket average to go up, right? And then I'd say to the gentleman, before I leave, do you trust me to make decision for appetizers for the table? Yes. Terrific. Enjoy your meeting. And I would leave. Now, I've just sold probably $100, and I was at the table probably 90 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, that's 35 years ago. Christine does the same thing when she has a guest in the chair. She makes it a game within a game.
Yes.
And she was talking about that in respect to treatments yesterday, was she not?
Yes.
And she said, so I'll start with a guest. And she said, it's funny, we have a leveling system here. And she said, if I don't have a cancellation, that's not a celebration for me. She said, I had a lady that comes in every 2 or 3 months, John? Steve? John. I think I was with them too much. And has $2,700 in extensions, right?
Yes.
And she canceled this Sunday. And it was going to take her 4 hours, and she was going in on a Sunday to do this guest hair. Instead, she walked up, instead of saying, oh my, she canceled, boo-hoo, she said, fill me up for these 4 hours. And in 4 hours, she did. $1,600, I think. And she is the highest level. They have 7 levels in their organization. She's the highest. But if a guest came in and wanted a 40, she'd say, I'll take him at 40.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have nothing. I'll take him at 40. And she said, I took the first guest at 40 and she left with a $300 ticket. Started at 40 because of what I did and made the game within a game. Look what happened.
Well, and you know what it is? It's training yourself to think in a different way. That's all it is. The opportunity is there for everyone, for each of us. And I was thinking about that today as I drove in. Just what are the things that I have made rudimentary or mundane that I need to think about in a different way to be able to maximize the potential.
Or to teach it.
Yeah, or to teach it. I mean, too much time we spend doing what we've always done and expecting a different result. And of course, that's the definition of insanity. But please know, one of the things that we've talked about, and you've probably heard it from us before, I love this quote that says, if you do the things that you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do them, you'll soon be able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. And it's so true. I mean, people, I told a story yesterday about the guy that complained about his lunch every day. He carried his lunch to work. Every day he complained about it. Every day he pulled out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, potato chips, and an apple. Day after day after day after day. And every day he complained. He ate with the same people. And one day the guy said to him, why don't you ask your wife to pack you something different for lunch? You complain every day. I've heard about this now forever. And he said, oh, I pack my own lunch. What lunch are you packing for yourself every day? Right? I mean, we all do that.
That's so true.
We all do that. And so if we want something different, we've got the choice. We've got everything to choose from. We've got that choice. And so we just need to be sure that we're recognizing it, because it is too easy to just be in a rhythm. It's too easy to just do what we've always done. So some food for thought, and I think it takes us into the next topic, which is everyone will say, oh my God, I don't have any time. I don't have time to be great. I don't have time to do the things that you guys talk about. I'm so busy. And here's one thing that's
I'm so busy.
Being busy.
I love it from the American president. I was so busy trying to keep my job that I wasn't doing my job, right? And I'm a salon owner could say, I'm so busy behind the chair
that I don't have time to recruit, that I don't have time to pay more attention to take-home sales, that I don't have time to be there when my new hires have questions or when my recruiter has questions.
And I don't have time for social media, and I don't have time to do the displays. All right, so if you think you're doing this whole thing on your own, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. Because it takes a village.
Well, it takes a village, but another thing is that you're never just going to find time.
And it doesn't pop up in the morning, does it? Ooh,
there's a lot of things you can find. You can walk down the street and find lots of different things, but you're never going to find time. Time, you have to make time for the things that matter. It has to be managed, it has to be measured, and it has to be scheduled. And you know, we've all had those things, whether it's developing a workout habit, which, God bless us, we need to do that. We can say we're too busy to work out.
I scheduled a Pilates appointment for you at 8 o'clock in the morning, you and I together.
Praise God. That's a joke, because you're not at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I have to be. We have to make time for it. I can do it one day a week. See, we'll find time one day a week to do that part. But the biggest thing on it, it's got to be managed. it has to be measured, it has to be scheduled. It's so easy to drop a commitment you make to yourself. But when Jody said, I'm going to move things around so I can have you and Steve on the reformer to do some stretching, now I've made a commitment to somebody else. And I got you involved in it, so it'll help.
And I just found out.
And he just, well, you don't do well with enough notice because you'll try to finagle out of it. He was at the doctor's office last week and he said, they're not running on time, I'm going to leave. No, you're not. He said, I'm not a good doctor's office waiter.
Can't wait in that situation.
Well, you have to.
Drives me nuts.
And well, and you did. So it must be managed, must be measured, must be scheduled, or we're not going to get to it, right? And what does our staff say? We don't do anything new. We don't have the communication. We don't, because it's not managed, it's not measured. And if you're looking for leftover time, it's not going to be there for you. It's not going to present itself. So you have to have some fuel time every day.
Fuel
time. You've got to bring that fuel in.
Something that gives you energy.
Something that you enjoy. Something that fills you up and gives you that extra, wow, I can do this. I mean, sometimes looking at what we've accomplished today is or great work or walking the business or feeling like, wow, we sounded great on the phone just now. That fills you up because those are deposits of greatness. But what happens if we have a whole day where what's next? What went wrong? What could have been better? And then you feel like I don't have any strengths whatsoever. You know, the wheels are falling off. So what's your fuel every day? Is it that audio time? What is it?
It definitely is. It's having time to make sure I'm putting some good things in to think about.
Well, the kicker to this whole thing is your people, they've got to have fuel every day too, right? So you've got to have fuel. You've got to find out what your team's fuel is. And like for Jennifer's, I know Jennifer's fuel is to check things off. Now, how many times do we get a message from her and it'll say, any thoughts on this? Or did you respond to this? I'm waiting on this, nudging you again, right? She wants to make sure she's keeping that boat going. She's rowing that boat. Talk about the boat, because you gave some great examples of that yesterday.
Well,
and we've talked about, does the boat go faster, or will it make the boat go faster?
Right.
But this was another
concept.
This is
a different thought. This is something that comes from PJ Fleck, who took the, it's either Western or Central Michigan out of Kalamazoo football team this year into national championship contention. They won their first 11 games, and then they wound up, I think, losing their last two. But what was amazing is that he centered around a theme that was row the boat. And some things that he said about rowing the boat, it's a theory that he developed after they lost their second son, Colton. And of course, that's a low time in anyone's life. And all he could think of is keep rowing. You got to keep rowing. Row the boat, keep rowing, keep rowing, keep rowing. And what he learned from that is never to get too high from successes or to get too low from failures or disappointments or setbacks. And the key is to keep rowing no matter what. He then, the more he thought about it, the more he thought about the symbolism of the boat, the oars, and the process. And the boat represents anything that you want to achieve. It's the goal, it's the value, it's the mission of what it is that you want to accomplish. It's the sacrifice. It's the process of what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? Not give up. What are you willing to sacrifice in order to have something or be something that you've never been before? And so with that thought process in mind, now the oar is the energy. That's what creates the energy. And so in a true sense of rowing, you've got two people that sit next to each other and both of their oars are in the water. And what's important about that is that they have the same timing and the same energy and the same amount of strength that's going with that, because if you got a rower on one side that's going faster or stronger than a rower on the other, you're either going to go zigzag or you're going to go around in circles. You'll never get there. You're just going to go around in circles if only one person is rowing or one person is rowing harder. So the idea of being in sync and having that common sacrifice, that common energy is what's so important. He also said that when you're rowing, you're looking back. Your back is to the future. You can't see it. What you can see is the past, which we need to learn from and adjust and adapt and decide what needs to be here in the present. So you're only really witnessing, and think about that. That's so true in business. We can see that we're living in the present and we know the past. We're looking at the past. The future is a vision. The future is what this vessel is going to take us to. And so it's really important. And I think it's a reason why that team was so successful and why he got the big job in the Big Ten at the end of that season. And I think that it's good thought for all of us. And I know that I haven't necessarily done it justice in this explanation. And PJ Fleck, F-L-E-C-K, from a little bitty town in Illinois, coached it. I think he went to Caneland, Illinois high school. And he's just doing incredible things. He could have said, I'm from a small town, I'll never amount to much. But he didn't. And he worked toward what he believed in. And look at what's happened now.
And I think you have to think big with your strengths.
Oh my.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think he is the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator and the special teams coach. He surrounded himself by people.
You know, there's other things that he did. The oar is a symbol, and saying row the boat. He said that every single person had to be behind that mission, not just the football team, the student body, the faculty, the fans in the stands, the town. He said that in Kalamazoo, I forget, there was a little phrase. Oh, on Saturdays in Kalamazoo, it's what we do. We go to Bronco football. And he put up oars. He paid for them. He put up oars in all the businesses in Kalamazoo because he knew that he needed, if he was going to accomplish something extraordinary, he had to have total involvement of that vision.
So why don't we get little oars, have people decorate them?
I love it.
And hang it on the wall. We can get them. Brian, can you find them somewhere, little oars? And we can get little oars, they decorate them, and we hang them all.
And guess what else?
What?
If you put one letter in front of row, you get grow.
Grow. Love it.
You get grow.
I bet you. We're not done yet, but that would have been a great close. So the kicker is, we're going to find this out about our team. And remember, the disciplines of working on our strengths. And this is a great staff meeting every week. What are our strengths? Are we getting better at getting better? And remembering, as we've said since the fourth quarter, discipline is uncomfortable short term and compromise is uncomfortable forever. So how are we going to say, because compromise is uncomfortable, and if you compromise, you're stating the excuse like lack of time. Mm-hmm. And you can't compromise that, right? So now, what we're going to do is we're going to find our strengths, and I gave you copies in this of all the systems that were responsible. Remember, you may say you don't like a system, like your system, or that you don't have it. But if people go to work every day and do hair and service guests in any capacity, that's a system. Whether it's a good, bad, or ugly system, it is one. And then you've got to change it to make it be what it needs to be to keep a repeat guest, to create loyalty, to understand that our best days are still ahead of us, that we're still going to row together. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about what happens if we have some people that don't want to row.
Man overboard.
Man overboard. Hit the dinghy. And when you think about looking at the organization, there's something really magic about when it's rowing smooth, or when you can see that You're not fighting the battle every day. You know, there's times in business, even when we went through some of the things that we went through over the last 3 years, there were times when all you said every day was what we needed to do. Now I love that there's days that you're saying what we're doing versus what we need to do. And then I can't wait till you say, and we did it, right?
That's the way it's done.
But we're gonna do it.
Yep.
Right? You can't continue to do it right every day and not have it become the right result.
That's right.
Right?
And that's true all the way through. I remember when I heard this for the first time, even a person in a job where maybe their efforts aren't being recognized, you can't consistently outperform and have it not eventually be recognized and be rewarded for it. Just can't happen.
Well, and I can tell you, I know when I am a deadline person. I like knowing. I like being held accountable. Like today, I know that this is going to be done at 10 o'clock. I can't at 11 o'clock say, oops, missed the 10 o'clock, and then just have us sit here and look at the screen. So I'm really pushed by completion times. I don't like, we'll get there when we get there. That's hard for me. And it's a struggle. So the more I put deadlines in place or have to have someone hold me accountable to it, like Jennifer schedules me and all the appointments, because she'll overlap things that I probably wouldn't have done on my own. But once she does it, she's committed my time, and then I've got to live with it. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I don't love it.
No, but you really fight that. Deadlines is not your favorite thing because you're such a visionary. You always want to put more thought into it.
Or I put so many things back to back that we've got one right after this, a great example. We've got a call right after this e-learning, and I haven't had sufficient time to prepare for it. And I'll say because of our schedule.
Well, and it wasn't, well, and no one cares, right?
Right. It's call's still happening.
Right, and it shouldn't have, if you would have protected yourself. Because you have that disease where if someone asks you to do something next week, you really think that's 14 years from now. Right? Then you go, what? Oh my God, what was I thinking? So the first thing I did when I got on the aircraft yesterday was what? Work on this. Because I knew we had to. When was I going to do it? And I really had a conversation with myself. We've had no sleep. I really wanted.
Well, you is.
No, but we got to bed at 1 o'clock the night before. We got up early to teach yesterday all day, and I really could have used that flight home just to close my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But that would have thrown me behind the 8 ball. I had some of it written conceptually, but not in. And then I knew I had to be here, and I looked over you and I said, I've got to be here by 8:30 tomorrow morning. And so I say out loud what I'm late on. You don't do that. You kind of try to sweep it under the rug. Like you'll figure a way to make it all happen. And that catches up with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many of you owners do that?
I think a lot of owners.
Right, because you're visionaries, right? Okay, so when you look at the system, it's always the solution. You've got to figure out how do we make these a strength. We've been talking about a lot of this. How do we do these things? How do we defend why we do these things? I was asking, even yesterday, I was asking visible changes. Just giving them some things to think about that we were thinking about. And I said, do you do a welcoming ritual just to set yourself apart? I mean, you're getting ready to celebrate. You're going into your 40th year, or you're in your 40th year now. How do you keep it new? And we just gave them some things to think about. Other thing I'm thinking about that we have to make sure that we're working on as a system is our professional demeanor, how we carry ourselves, our character traits. Are we ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen? And are we doing the right things for the right reasons? And do we know what it takes from us professionally to be at our best? And when you're on all day, it takes a focus, and it takes an understanding of your strengths. And when do you push your service beyond its means? When do you push your teamwork beyond its means? When do you push your team beyond its means because you're not prepared or whatever? That's tough. That's tough. Can we open this up to questions? Brian?
We cannot.
We cannot?
No.
Can they write one?
They can absolutely.
They can write a question. Okay. How is this topic? It's a little heavier than most of ours, but I think it's important, especially, February is going to be done in 2 minutes. Then we got 10 months left for 2017. How are we doing so far? Where are we going to come in at? I have to be honest with you. I was around a lot of young people, and it was so obvious. I was 56. Thank you. It was so obvious I was 56, and do they want to still learn from us? I said to Steve, gosh, do we still teach? Is the world changed so much, and the cell phones become their god of learning? But they don't want to learn from someone 56 or 60 anymore. I had a really hard time with that. And then I thought, yeah, they do.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Yes, they do. They need to learn. They need to have that perspective. And just like we enjoyed our time learning from John and Marianne,
Yeah.
they need to learn too.
It's not about an age as much as it's about should they want to learn. You have to earn the right. You have to be able to relate. You have to be able to get buy-in. And that's one of the things that Johnny and I talked about yesterday, which was watching we had 100 of their top performers for 3 hours yesterday. And the first 10 minutes or so that it took, what we may have called warm-up time, but it was really buy-in time. And they were sitting there, and is this going to be worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Just like we all did.
Oh, yes.
I don't care whether it's going to a concert, you may be excited to see that artist, but is it going to be all new stuff or all old stuff? Are they going to play my favorites? Is it going to be worth what I had to do with my schedule to work around and get to this event?
Was it worth the ticket price?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that first 10 minutes is that whole value proposition that goes out. But beyond that, they were in. Beyond that, they were really in, and they were engaged.
And what we challenged all of them to, because how many hairdressers are in the organization right now? 1,000.
Close to.
Right? And we said, for you legacy, and for you people that are in the room that are the example of the visible changes way, you need to go back and get the ones that aren't here today. Let me read this question. My mother and I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you. Would it be possible to email you? Of course. Of course. Paul Mitchell Focus Line. Absolutely. You get a hold of us and let's get something scheduled. It'd be great if we could meet right on the property here and have dedicated time to you. So we'll have Jennifer give you a call. Jennifer Michaels, and I'm going to give you her email address. J as in Jennifer, Michaels,
MIKOLS
at P as in Paul, S as in Sam, C as in Charles for PSC, and then the word space, SPACE.com. Oh, I could do that right here, couldn't I, Brian?
Okay.
Oh, thank you. You're so welcome. Are we done, Brian? Brian, could you give us a closing message there, mister? Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day a day later. Happy
Yeah.
February 15th.
Oh,
All candies on sale at half price today.
yeah, we don't need to know about that.
So anyway, just know, what I was thinking is, what if I wanted more information on any of this? What would be some topics or books or things that could be done? I know that there's a series of books. I can't tell you who the author is, and it's been around a while. And one of the titles is First Discover Your Strengths. And then the follow-up book is Now Find Your Voice.
Oh,
So the whole idea
love
is discover
that.
your strengths and then use your voice, use your influence, use your ability to lead and have others come along. I think there's another book out there called Strength Finder 2.0, which is a process of again, I think it's a testing procedure. If you want to do you could do a Google search on PJ Fleck, F-L-E-C-K, Row the Boat. And there's YouTube. You could also search them on YouTube and get that explanation. And then I want to encourage one last time, Audible's a wonderful thing, but only if you use it. So if you signed up for Audible at $14.95 a month, download those books every month, build a great library. And there's some, like right now, there's one book that it's only about an hour and a half to listen to, but I've listened to it at least 30 times in a row. And my goal is so that I can repeat. I know how the sentence is going to end.
Who is this? Which one?
It's actually the book that we gave out for Christmas.
Oh yeah, I love it. You
About
can't send a duck to Eagle
school.
School. Yes.
And there's so many great
Little nuggets in there.
little nuggets, just
Mhm.
great concepts. So anyway, that's it for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We'll see you next month. I forget the topic. I pledge to always have that for you, but it's called March E-Learning 2017. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Go be great.